I'm back. I did take myself a bit of a break because I was having some major personal and some mental, some physical problems, but I should be back now. And so I'm hoping that I can start back where we left off in our little read aloud. Um, and thank you so much if you have managed to stick around this long waiting for me to get my stuff together. My computer is still bad, so I won't be doing as many Let's Plays yet until I can save up enough money, which, if you would like to support, you can just be staying here, and hopefully I can get something up for donations or something. I don't know. Not that I deserve it at all. But anyways, if I remember correctly, if I can find and dust off my giant old book, I believe we were on chapter 6, which is in which Eeyore has a birthday and gets 2 presents. Eeyore, the old grey donkey, stood by the side of the stream and looked at himself in the water. "Pathetic," he said. "That's what it is. Pathetic." He turned and walked slowly down the stream for 20 He cares. Pathetic. That's what it is. There was a crackling noise in the bracken behind him, and out came Pooh. "Good morning, Eeyore," said Pooh. "Good morning, Pooh Bear," said Eeyore, gloomily. "If it is a good morning," he said. "Which I doubt," said he. "Why, what's the matter?" "Nothing, Pooh Bear, nothing. We can't all, and some of us don't, and that's all there is to it." "Can't all what?" said Pooh, rubbing his nose. "Gaiety. Song and dance. Here we go around the mulberry bush." "Oh," said Pooh. He thought for a long time and then asked, "What mulberry bush is that?" "Bonhomie," went on Eeyore gloomily. "French word, meaning bonhomie," he explained. "I'm not complaining, but there it is." Pooh sat down on a large stone and tried to think this out. It sounded to him like a riddle, and he was never much good at riddles. But being a bear, very little brain, so he sang Cuddleston Pie instead. "Cuddleston, Cuddleston, Cuddleston Pie, a bird can't fly, a fly can't bird, but a bird can fly. Ask me a riddle and I reply, Cuddleston, Cuddleston, Cuddleston Pie." That was the first verse. When I finished it, Eeyore didn't actually say that he didn't like it, so Pooh very kindly sang the second verse to him. "Cuddleston, Cuddleston, Cuddleston Pie, a fish can't whistle, and neither can I. Ask me a riddle and I reply, Cuddleston, Cuddleston, Cuddleston Pie." Eeyore still said nothing at all, so Pooh hummed the third verse quietly to himself. "Cuddleston, Cuddleston, Cuddleston Pie, why does a chicken? I don't know why. Ask me a riddle and I reply, Cuddleston, Cuddleston, Cuddleston Pie." "That's right. Sing," said Eeyore. "Umpt-a-tiddly, umpt-a-too, here we go gathering nuts in May. Enjoy yourself." "I am," said Pooh. "Some can," said Eeyore. "Why, what's the matter?" "Is anything the matter?" "You seem so sad, Eeyore." "Sad? Why should I be sad? It's my birthday, the happiest day of the year." "Your birthday?" said Pooh in great surprise. "Of course it is. Can't you see? Look at all the presents I have had." He waved a foot from side to side. "Look at the birthday cake, candles, and pink sugar." Pooh looked, first to the right, and then to the left. Presents, said Pooh. Birthday cake, said Pooh. Where?
Can't you see them?
No, said Pooh.
Neither can I, said Eeyore. Joke, he explained. Ha, ha.
Pooh scratched his head, being a little puzzled by this. Is it really your birthday?
It is.
Oh, well, many happy returns of the day, Eeyore.
And many happy returns to you, Pooh Bear.
But it isn't my birthday.
No, it's mine.
But you said many happy return.
Well, why not? You don't always want to be miserable on my birthday, do you?
Oh, I see, said Pooh.
It's bad enough, said Eeyore, almost breaking down. Being miserable myself, what with no presents and no cake and no candles and no proper notice taken of me at all. But if everybody else is going to be miserable too...
This was too much for Pooh.
Stay there, he called to Eeyore as he turned and hurried back home as quick as he could.
For he felt that he must get poor Eeyore a present of some sort at once, and he could think of always of a proper one afterwards. Outside his house he found Piglet, jumping up and down trying to reach the knocker. Hello, Piglet.
Hello, Pooh, said Piglet.
What are you trying to do?
I was trying to reach the knocker, said Piglet. I just came round.
Let me do it for you, said Pooh kindly. So he reached up and knocked at the door. I have just been to see your Eeyore, he began, and poor Eeyore is in a very sad condition, because it is his birthday and nobody has taken any notice of it, and he is very gloomy. You know what that Eeyore is. And there he was. And what a long time whoever lives there is answering this door. And he knocked again.
But Pooh, said Piglet, it's your own house.
Oh, said Pooh, so it is, he said. Well, let's go in. So in they went. The first thing Pooh did was go to the cupboard and see if he had quite a small jar of honey left. And he had, so he took it down. I'm giving this to Eeyore, he explained, as a present. What are you going to give?
Couldn't I give it too, said Piglet, from both of us?
No, said Pooh. That would not be a good plan.
All right, then. I'll give him a balloon. I've got one left from my party. I'll go and get it now, shall I?
That, Piglet, is a very good idea. It is just what Eeyore wants to cheer him up. Nobody can be uncheered with a balloon. So off Piglet trotted, and in the other direction went Pooh with his jar of honey. It was a warm day. I lost my spot. It was a warm day, and he had a long way to go. He hadn't gone more than halfway when a sort of funny feeling began to creep all over him. It began at the tip of his nose and trickled all through him and out the soles of his feet. It was just as if somebody inside him were saying, "Now then, Pooh, time for a little something." Dear, dear, said Pooh. I didn't know it was as late as that. So he sat down and took the top off his jar of honey. Luckily, I brought this with me. Many a bear going So he sat down and took the top off his jar of honey. Lucky I brought this with me, he thought. Many a bear going out on a warm day like this would never have thought of bringing a little something with him. And he began to eat. Now let me see, he thought, as he took his last lick of inside the jar. Where was I going? Ah, yes, Eeyore. He got up slowly, and then suddenly he remembered. He had eaten Eeyore's birthday present. Bother, said Pooh. What shall I do? I must give him something. For a little while he couldn't think of anything. Then he thought, well, it is a very nice pot, even if there's no honey in it. And if I washed it clean and got somebody to write a happy birthday on it, Eeyore could keep things in it, which might be useful. So, as he was just passing the 100-acre wood, he went inside to call on Owl, who lived there. Good morning, Owl. Good morning, Pooh, said Owl.
Many happy returns of Eeyore's birthday, said Pooh.
Oh, is that what it is?
What are you giving him, Owl?
What are you giving him, Pooh?
I am giving him a useful pot to keep things in. And I wanted to ask you,
Is this it?
said Owl, taking it out of Pooh's paw.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you.
Somebody has been keeping honey in it.
You can keep anything in it, said Pooh earnestly. It's very useful like that. And I wanted to ask you.
You ought to write a very happy birthday on it.
That was what I was wanting to ask you, said Pooh. Because my spelling is wobbly. It is good spelling, but it wobbles, and the letters get in the wrong places. Would you write a happy birthday on it for me?
It is a nice pot, said Owl, looking at it all around. Couldn't I give it too, from the both of us?
No, said Pooh. That would not be a good plan. Now I'll just wash it first, then you can write on it. Well, he washed the pot out and dried it, while Owl licked the end of his pencil and wondered how to spell birthday. Can you read, Pooh? He asked, a little anxiously. There's a notice out about knocking and ringing outside my door, which Christopher Robin wrote. Could you read it? Christopher Robin told me what it was, and then I could. Well, I will tell you what this says, and then you'll be able to. So Owl wrote, and this is what he wrote. Oh God. Hippy, pappy, Bethesda, Bethesday. That is quite literally what is on the page, spelling and all. Pooh looked on admiringly. I am just saying a happy birthday, said Owl carelessly. That's a nice long one, said Pooh, very impressed by it.
Well, actually, of course I'm saying a very happy birthday with love from Pooh. Naturally, it takes a good deal of pencil to say a nice long thing like that.
Oh, I see, said Pooh. While all this was happening, Piglet had gone back to his own house to get Eeyore's balloon. He held it very tightly against himself so that it wouldn't blow away, and he ran as fast as he could so as to get to Eeyore before Pooh did, for he thought that he would like to be the first one to give a present, just as if he had thought of it without being told by anybody. And running along and thinking how pleased Eeyore would be, he didn't look where he was going, and suddenly put his foot in a rabbit hole and fell down flat on his face. Bang! Piglet lay there, wondering what had happened. At first he thought that the whole world had blown up, and then he thought perhaps only the forest part of it had. And then he thought perhaps that only he had, and now he was alone on the moon or somewhere, and he would never see Christopher Robin or Pooh or Eeyore again. And then he thought,
well, even if I'm on the moon, I needn't be face downwards all the time.
So he cautiously got up and looked about him. He was still in the forest.
Well, that's funny, he thought. I wonder what that bang was. I couldn't have made but such a noise just falling down. And where's my balloon? And what's that small piece of damp rag doing?
It was the balloon.
Oh dear, said Piglet. Oh dear, oh dearie, 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 dear. Well, it's too late now. I can't go back, and I haven't another balloon. Perhaps Eeyore doesn't like balloons so very much.
So he trotted on, rather sadly now, and down he came the side of the stream where Eeyore was and called out to him.
Good morning, Eeyore,
shouted Piglet. Good morning, little Piglet, said Eeyore. If it is a good morning, he said. Which I doubt, he said. Not that it matters, he said.
Many happy returns of the day, said Piglet, having now got closer.
Eeyore stopped looking at himself in the stream and turned to stare at Piglet. Just say that again. Wait a moment. Balancing on 3 legs, he began to bring his 4th leg very cautiously up to his ear. I did this yesterday, he explained, as he fell down for a 3rd time. It's quite easy. It's so that I can hear you better. There, that's done it. Now then, what were you saying? He pushed his ear forward with his hoof.
Many happy returns of the day, said Piglet again.
Meaning me?
Of course, Eeyore.
My birthday?
Yes.
Me having a real birthday?
Yes, Eeyore, and I brought you a present.
Eeyore took down his right hoof from his right ear, turned round, and with great difficulty put up his left hoof. I must have that in the other ear, he said.
Now then, a present, said Piglet very loudly.
Meaning me again?
Yes.
My birthday still.
Of course, Eeyore.
Me going on having a real birthday?
Yes, Eeyore, and I brought you a balloon.
A balloon? Said Eeyore. Did you say balloon? One of those big colored things that you blow up? Gaiety, song, and dance, here we are and there we are.
Yes, but I'm afraid I'm very sorry, Eeyore, but when I was running along to bring it to you, I fell down.
Dear, dear, how unlucky. You ran too fast, I expect. You didn't hurt yourself, little Piglet.
No, but oh, Eeyore, I burst the balloon.
There was a long, very long silence. My balloon, said Eeyore at last. Piglet nodded. My birthday balloon?
Yes, Eeyore, said Piglet, sniffing a little. Here it is, with many happy returns of the day.
And he gave Eeyore the small piece of damp rag. Is this it? Said Eeyore, a little surprised. Piglet nodded. My present? Piglet nodded again. The balloon?
Yes.
Thank you, Piglet, said Eeyore. You don't mind my asking, he went on, but what color was this balloon when it was a balloon?
Red.
I just wondered. Red, he murmured to himself. My favorite color. How big was it?
About as big as me.
I just wondered. About as big as Piglet. He said to himself sadly, my favorite size. Well, well. Piglet felt very miserable, and didn't know what to say. He was still opening his mouth to begin something, and then deciding that it wasn't any good saying that, when he heard a shout from the other side of the river, and there was Pooh. Many happy returns of the day, called Pooh, forgetting that he had said it already. Thank you, Pooh. I am having them, said Eeyore gloomily. I brought you a little present, said Pooh excitedly. I've had it. Pooh had now splashed across the stream to Eeyore, and Piglet was sitting a little way off, his head in his paws, snuffling to himself. It's a useful pot, said Pooh. Here it is, and it's got a very happy birthday with love from Pooh written on it. And that's all that writing is. That's what all that writing is. And it's for putting things in. There. When Eeyore saw the pot, he became quite excited. Why, I believe my balloon will just go in that pot. Oh no, Eeyore, balloons are much too big to go into pots. What you do with the balloon is you hold the balloon. Not mine, said Eeyore proudly. Look, Piglet. And as Piglet looked sorrowfully around, Eeyore picked the balloon up with his teeth and placed it carefully in the pot, picked it out and put it on the ground, and then picked it up again and put it carefully back. So it does, said Pooh. It goes in.
So it does, said Piglet, and it comes out.
Doesn't it? Said Eeyore. It goes in and out like anything. I'm very glad, said Pooh happily, that I thought of giving you a useful pot to put things in.
And I'm very glad, said Piglet happily, that I thought of something you put... English. That I thought of giving you something to put in a useful pot. But Eeyore wasn't listening. He was taking the balloon out and putting it back again, as happy as could be. And I didn't give him anything, asked Christopher Robin sadly. Of course you did, I said. You gave him, you don't remember, a little... I
gave him a box of paints to paint things with. That was it. Why didn't I give it to him in the morning? You were busy getting his party ready for him. He had a cake with icing on the top and 3 candles and his name in pink sugar and... Yes, I remember, said Christopher Robin. That appears to be the end of the chapter this time. We might as well go for another chapter. This one is Chapter 7, in which Kanga and Baby Roo come to the forest, and Piglet has a bath. Nobody seemed to know where they came from, but there they were in the forest, Kanga and Baby Roo. When Pooh asked Christopher Robin, how did they come here? Christopher Robin said, in the usual way, if you know what I mean, Pooh. And Pooh, who didn't, said, oh. Then he nodded his head twice and said, in the usual way, ah. Then he went to call upon his friend Piglet to see what he thought about it. And at Piglet's house he found Rabbit, so they all talked about it together. What I don't like about this is, said Rabbit, here are we, you, Pooh, and you, Piglet, and me, and suddenly, and Eeyore, said Pooh, and Eeyore, and then suddenly, and Owl, said Pooh, and Owl, and then all of the sudden, oh, and Eeyore, said Pooh. I was forgetting him. Here we are, said Rabbit, very slowly and carefully, all of us. And then, suddenly, we wake up one morning, and what do we find? We find a strange animal among us, an animal of whom we have never heard before, an animal who carries her baby about with her in her pocket. I suppose I carried my family about with me in my pocket. How many pockets should I want? 16, said Piglet.
16, said Piglet.
17, isn't it? Said Rabbit.
And one more for a handkerchief, that's 18. 18 pockets in one suit. I haven't the time.
There was a long and thoughtful silence, and then Pooh, who had been frowning very hard for some minutes, said, I make it 15.
What? Said Rabbit.
15.
15 what?
Your family.
What about them?
Pooh rubbed his nose and said that he thought Rabbit had been talking about his family. Did I? Said Rabbit carelessly. Yes, you did.
Never mind, Pooh, said Piglet impatiently. The question is, what are we going to do about Kanga?
Oh, I see, said Pooh. The best way, said Rabbit, would be this. The best way would be to steal Baby Roo and hide him. And then, when Kanga says, where's Baby Roo? We say, aha! Aha, said Pooh, practicing. Aha, aha! Of course, he went on. We could say, aha, even if we hadn't stolen Baby Roo. Pooh, said Rabbit kindly, you haven't any brain. I know, said Pooh humbly. We say aha so that Kanga knows that we know where Baby Roo is. Aha means we'll tell you where Baby Roo is if you promise to go away from the forest and never come back. Now don't talk while I think. Pooh went into a corner and tried saying aha in that sort of voice. Sometimes it seemed to him that it did mean what Rabbit said. Sometimes it seemed to him that it didn't. I suppose it's just practice, he thought. I wonder if Kanga will have to practice too, so as to understand it.
There's just one thing, said Piglet, fidgeting a bit. I was talking to Christopher Robin, and he said that Kanga was generally regarded as one of the fiercer animals. I am not frightened of fierce animals in the ordinary way, but it is well known that if one of the fiercer animals is deprived of its young, it becomes as fierce as two of the fiercer animals. In which case, aha is perhaps a foolish thing to say.
Piglet, said Rabbit, taking out a pencil and licking the end of it, you haven't any pluck.
It's hard to be brave, said Piglet, sniffing slightly, when you're only a very small animal.
Rabbit, who had begun to write very busily, looked up and said, It is because that you are a small animal that you would be useful in this adventure before us. Piglet was so excited at the idea of being useful that he forgot to be frightened anymore. And when Rabbit went on to say that Kangos were only fierce during the winter months, being at other times of an affectionate disposition, he could hardly sit still, and was so eager to begin being useful at once.
What about me? Said Pooh sadly. I suppose I shan't be useful.
Never mind, Pooh, said Piglet comfortingly. Another time, perhaps. Without Pooh, said Rabbit solemnly as he sharpened his pencil, the adventure would be impossible. Oh, said Piglet, and tried not to look disappointed. But Pooh went into a corner of the room as he said proudly to himself, "Impossible without me, that sort of bear." "Now listen, all of you," said Rabbit when he had finished writing. And Pooh and Piglet sat listening very eagerly with their mouths open. This is what Rabbit read out. Plan to capture Baby Roo. 1. General remarks. Kanga runs faster than any of us, even me. 2. More general remarks. Kanga never takes her eye off Baby Roo, except when he's safely buttoned up in her pocket. 3. Therefore, if we are to capture Baby Roo, we must get a long start, because Kanga runs faster than any of us, even me, see number 1. 4. A thought. If Roo had jumped out of Kanga's pocket and Piglet had jumped in, Kanga wouldn't know the difference, because Piglet is a very small animal. 5. Like Roo. 6. But Kanga would have to be looking the other way first, so as not to see Piglet jumping in. C7. C2. 8. Another thought. But if Pooh was talking to her very excitedly, she might look the other way for a moment. 9. And then I could run away with Roo. 10. Quickly. 11. And Kanga wouldn't discover the difference until afterwards. Well, Rabbit read this out proudly, and for a little while after he had read it, nobody said anything. And then Piglet, who had been opening and shutting his mouth without any noise, managed to say very huskily, "And afterwards?" "How do you mean?" "When Kanga does discover the difference?" "Then we all say, 'Aha!'" "All 3 of us?" "Yes." "Oh." "Why? What's the trouble, Piglet?" "Nothing," said Piglet. "As long as we all 3 say..." "As long as we all 3 say it. As long as we all 3 say it," said Piglet. "I don't mind. But I shouldn't care to say 'aha' by myself. It wouldn't sound nearly so well, by the way," he said. "You are quite sure what you said about the winter months?" "The winter months?" "Yes, only being fierce in the winter months." "Oh, yes, that's all right. Well, Pooh, you see what you have to do." "No," said Pooh, "not yet," he said. "What do I do?" "Well, you just have to talk very hard to Kanga so she doesn't notice anything." "Oh, about what?" "Anything you like." "You mean like telling her a little bit of poetry or something?" "That's it," said Rabbit. "Splendid. Now come along." So they all went out to look for Kanga. Kanga and Roo were spending a quiet afternoon in the sandy part of the forest. Baby Roo was practicing very small jumps in the sand and falling down mouse holes and climbing out of them. And Kanga was fidgeting about, saying, "Just one more jump, dear, and then we must go home." And at that moment, who should come stumping up the hill but Pooh. "Good afternoon, Kanga." "Good afternoon, Pooh." "Look at me jumping!" squeaked Roo, and then fell into another mouse hole. "Hello, Roo, my little fellow." "We were just going home," said Kanga. "Good afternoon, Rabbit. Good afternoon, Piglet." Rabbit and Piglet, who had now come up from the other side of the hill, said, "Good afternoon," and "Hello, Roo." And Roo asked them to look at him jumping, so they stayed and looked. And Kanga looked too. "Oh, Kanga," said Roo, after Rabbit had winked at him twice, "I didn't know if you were interested in poetry at all." "Hardly at all," said Kanga. "Oh." "Roo, dear, just one more jump and then we must go home." There was a short silence while Roo
while Roo fell down another mouse hole.
Go on.
Said Rabbit in a loud whisper behind his paw. Talking of poetry, said Pooh, I made up a little piece as I was coming along. It went like this. No, let me see. Fancy, said Kanga. Now, Roo dear, you'll like this piece of poetry, said Rabbit.
You'll love it.
Said Piglet. You must listen very carefully, said Rabbit.
So as not to miss any of it,
said Piglet. Oh yes, said Kanga, but she still looked at Baby Roo. How did it go, Pooh? Said Rabbit. Pooh gave a little cough and began. Lines written by a bear of very little brain. On Monday, when the sun is hot, I wonder to myself a lot, now is it true or is it not? What is which and which is what? On Tuesday, when it hails and snows, the feeling on me grows and grows, that hardly anybody knows if those are these, or these are those. On Wednesday, when the sky is blue and I have nothing else to do, I sometimes wonder if it's true that who is what and what is who. On Thursday, when it starts to freeze, and hoarfrost twinkles in the trees, how very readily one sees that these are whose, but whose are these? On Friday, yes, it is, isn't it? Said Kanga, not wanting to hear what happened on Friday. Just one more jump, Roo, and then we really must be going. Rabbit gave Pooh a hurrying up sort of nudge. Talking of poetry, said Pooh quickly, have you noticed that tree right over there? Where? Said Kanga. Now, Roo, right over there, said Pooh, pointing behind Kanga's back. No, said Kanga. Now jump in, Roo dear, and we'll go home. You ought to look at that tree right over there, said Rabbit. Shall I lift you, Roo? And he picked Roo up in his paws. I can see a bird in it from here. Or is it a fish? You really ought to see that bird from here, said Rabbit, unless it's a fish.
It isn't a fish, it's a bird, said Piglet.
So it is, said Rabbit. Is it a starling or a blackbird? Said Pooh. That's the whole question, said Rabbit. Is it a blackbird or a starling? And then at last Kanga did turn her head to look. And the moment that her head was turned, Rabbit said in a loud voice, In you go, Roo! And in hopped Piglet into Kanga's pouch, and off scampered Rabbit with Roo in his paws as fast as he could. Why, where's Rabbit? Said Kanga, turning around again. Are you all right, Roo dear? Piglet made a squeaky Roo noise from the bottom of Kanga's pocket. Rabbit had to go away, said Pooh. I think he thought of something he had to do, and had to go see about it suddenly. And Piglet? I think Piglet thought of something to do at the same time, suddenly. Well, we must be getting home, said Kanga. Goodbye, Pooh. And in 3 large jumps she was gone. Pooh looked after her as she went. I wish I could jump like that, he thought. Some can and some can't. That's just how it is. But there were moments when Piglet wished that Kanga couldn't. Often, when he had a long walk home through the forest, he wished he were a bird. But now he thought jerkily to himself at the bottom of Kanga's pocket,
If this is flying, I shall never take to it.
And as he went up in the air, he said, Ooh! And as he came down, he said, Ow! So he was saying, Ooh, ow! Ooh, ow! Ooh, ow! All the way to Kanga's house. Of course, as soon as Kanga unbuttoned her pocket, she saw what had happened. Just for a moment she thought she was frightened, and then she knew she wasn't, for she felt quite sure that Christopher Robin would never let any harm happen to Roo. So she said to herself, If they are having a joke with me, I will have a joke with them. Now then, Roo dear, she said as she took Piglet out of her pocket, bedtime.
Aha,
said Piglet, as well as he could after his terrifying journey. But it wasn't a very good aha, and Kanga didn't seem to understand what it meant. Bath first, said Kanga in a cheerful voice. Aha, said Piglet again, looking around anxiously for the others. But the others weren't there. Rabbit was playing with Baby Roo in his own house and feeling more fond of him every minute. And Pooh, who had decided to be a Kanga, was still at the sandy place on top of the forest, practicing jumps. "I'm not all that sure," said Kanga in a thoughtful voice, "that it wouldn't be a good idea to have a cold bath this evening. Would you like that, Roo dear?" Piglet, who had never really been fond of baths, shuddered a long, indignant shudder, and then said, in as brave a voice as he could muster,
"Kanga, I see the time has come to speak plainly."
"Funny little Roo," said Kanga as she got the bath water ready.
"I am not Roo," said Piglet loudly. "I am Piglet."
"Yes, dear, yes," and imitating Piglet's voice too. So clever of him. She went on as she took a large bar of yellow soap out of the cupboard. "What will he be doing next?"
"Can't you see?" shouted Piglet. "Haven't you got eyes? Look at me."
"I am looking, Roo dear," said Kanga rather severely. "And you know what I told you yesterday about making faces. Now if you go on making faces like Piglet, you'll grow up to look like Piglet, and then think how sorry you will be. Now then, into the bath, and don't let me have to speak to you about it again." cried Piglet.
"Let me out, I'm Piglet."
"Don't open your mouth, dear, or the soap goes in," said Kanga. "There, now what did I tell you?"
You did that on purpose,"
sputtered Piglet as soon as he could speak again, and then accidentally had another mouthful of lathery flannel. "That's right, dear, don't say anything," said Kanga, and in another minute Piglet was out of the bath, being rubbed dry with a towel. "Now," said Kanga, "there's your medicine, and then bed."
What medicine?"
"To make you grow up big and strong, dear. You don't want to grow up small and weak like Piglet, do you? Well then." At that moment there was a knock on the door. "Come in," said Kanga, and in came Christopher Robin.
Christopher Robin, tell Kanga who I am. She keeps saying that I'm Roo," said Piglet. "I'm not Roo, am I?"
Christopher Robin looked at him very... had to adjust myself. My apologies. Christopher Robin looked at him very carefully and shook his head. "You can't be Roo," he said, "because I've just seen Roo playing at Rabbit's house." "Well," said Kanga, "fancy that. Fancy my making a mistake like that."
"There you are," said Piglet. I told you so. I'm Piglet."
Christopher Robin shook his head. "Oh, you're not Piglet," he said. "I know Piglet well, and he's quite a different color." Piglet began to say that this was because he'd just had a bath, then he thought that perhaps he shouldn't say that, and as he opened his mouth to say something else, Kanga slipped the medicine spoon in, and then patted him on the back, and told him that it was really quite a nice taste when you get used to it. "I knew it wasn't Piglet," said Kanga. "I wonder who it can be." "Perhaps some relation of Pooh's," said Christopher Robin. "What about a nephew, or an uncle, or something?" Kanga agreed that this was probably what it was, and said that they would have to call it by some other name. "I shall call it Pootel," said Christopher Robin. "Henry Pootel, for short." And just when it was decided, Henry Pootel wriggled out of Kanga's arms and jumped to the ground. To his great joy, Christopher Robin had left the door open. Never had Henry Pootel Piglet run so fast as he ran then, and he didn't stop running until he was quite close to his house. But when he was 100 yards away, he'd stopped running and rolled the rest of the way home so as to get his own nice, comfortable color again. So Kanga and Roo stayed in the forest, and every Tuesday Roo spent the day with his great friend Rabbit, and every Tuesday Kanga spent the day with her great friend Pooh, teaching him to jump, and every Tuesday Piglet spent the day with his great friend Christopher Robin, so they were all happy again. And that's gonna be it for this episode. Honestly, I have not read out loud in so long. I am most definitely not used to it again.